Yahyaei, Daniel van Lerberghe, which is a moderator, who is the moderator, Ali Al-Shidhani, Craig Wright, Gilles Babinet, Jean-Yves Le Gall, and Ruth Prelich. Please.
Okay. So, voilà. So, Sabah el khair to everybody. Sabah el khair for our panelists. And I would like to invite first our chair, Abdul Rahman Yahyaei, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Oman Society for Petroleum Services, OPAL, in Oman, to introduce our session. So please, Mr. Al-Yahyaei, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to welcome everyone again, especially those who have traveled all the way to Muscat. Welcome to Oman, and I really wish you a good stay in Muscat. Also, allow me to thank His Excellency Dr. Ali for joining us in this, first panel discussion, where we will be talking about, visions, and I think we will hear from His Excellency about, Oman plans, Vision 2040. The ministry as well vision for technology, advancing technology, and also developing young Omanis to take a role on such a great vision that the ministry has and the country also has. There is a lot of progress, and once again, thank you very much for moderating this session, and please proceed to go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, so I would like to invite Her Excellency Dr. Ali Al-Shidhani, who is the Undersecretary for Communication and Information Technology at the Ministry of Transport, Communication and Information Technology, of course, from Oman. So I will start with a first question. In 2022, Muscat received a very important recognition as the Arab Digital Capital. What are the main reasons for this label? Can you enlighten us, please?
Sure. Let me first start by saying good morning to everyone and welcome to Oman. And I want all of you to enjoy the country as much as possible. The country has a lot to offer. And beside the scientific debriefing that are happening here in this session, I hope you can enjoy the weather and the scene outside the hotel as well. It's a privilege for us to host the 29th edition of the Global Forum here in Oman. I believe it's the first time the forum is having, or the forum takes place in the Middle East. So it's an honor for us here in Oman to host this forum. So going back to your question, and maybe before jumping into the specific question, the title of the session is Future Visions. And as you all know, countries have visions, and countries aspire to compete and aspire to become leading nations. And so Oman have embarked on a new vision for the country called Vision 2040. And the vision specifically looks at putting Oman in the map of competing countries when it comes to economic diversification, when it comes to humanity, when it comes to human resource development. The vision is a 20-year vision, and it has been developed jointly. It's not a complete top-down vision. It's both hybrid, top-down and bottom-up. More than 40,000 people have joined in developing Oman's vision. You can read all the details about Oman Vision in the Oman Vision website. If you just search Google, the vision document is there both in Arabic and English. So it's an aspirational vision, and it's what drives everyone in the country towards this aspiration. Zooming into digitization. So again, digitization, as you all know, is a key pillar in any nation's development. And digitization, there is no doubt that it increases efficiency. It also accelerates development. Oman, or Muscat particularly, received the title as a Muscat Digital Capital for the year 2022. And it's the third Arab capital to receive this title. Before us, in 2021, Cairo received that title, and in 2020, Riyadh received that title. The reason why Oman was chosen as or Muscat was chosen as a digital capital is because of the strong digital foundation in Oman in terms of infrastructure, in terms of talent pool, and in terms of adaptive legislation when it comes to digitization. We can go on and on about it, but just to give you a few indicators, Oman is ranked among the top 50 countries in the world in the UN e-Government Development Index. Oman is ranked among the top 20 countries in the world in the UN Cybersecurity Readiness Index. It's also ranked among the 48th top countries in the world when it comes to Network Readiness Index. So there are so many achievements that are in place when it comes to digitization, and I think that was the reason why Oman was chosen as digital capital.
Thank you for this answer. So you jump in the topic, I mean, with the future vision and also digitalization. I mean, future vision means also tackling challenges, and ICT also means an enabler. So an enabler to tackle one of the pillars, like you said, to tackle these challenges. So Oman is also sitting on many resources and exploiting many resources. So, and we have the chair who is part of the OPAL, so the oil industry, and how technology is enabling, would you use technology to enable sustainability facing all the challenges of our planet, and particularly climate changes and so on?
So, as you all know, climate change is becoming center stage in every global forum discussion. And just 2 weeks ago, Oman has declared as well the carbon neutrality by 2050. So we have set a target for us, again, just like many other countries who have set targets for carbon neutrality. Climate change can be tackled by policies, can be tackled by preparedness, and it also can be tackled by technology. So there are different technologies that can be used to help in that direction. However, climate change is just one. We reached our time.
It's not the end of the speech. You still have a couple of minutes.
Sure. Let me go a step back. You also asked how can technology enable other sectors, including enabling the energy sector and its impact on climate change. So generally speaking, the country have identified few economic sectors that we want to develop and will help us to diversify the economy and to lower our dependencies on natural resources, oil and gas. Among those economic sectors are the logistics sector, mining, tourism, industry, and so on. So we are banking on digitalization and digital transformation to accelerate the efficiency of those sectors. And that's what our digital transformation roadmap aspires to do. So our digital transformation roadmap focuses in the first few years on accelerating digital transformation in economic sectors, and then creating a digital industry in the coming few years. So we believe digitization has a great role in accelerating the economies, the different the current economies as well as future economies. But that means that we need to work closely in the triple helix with academia, industry, and private and government to put the right legislative framework to equip our youth towards the future skills that are required, as well as opening up the country for digital investments. And maybe I can also shed some light on that. One of the things that we have also characterized Oman as is that we are pushing the narrative that Oman is a digital test bed. Oman wants to be a digital test bed to test new technologies. And for that, we have ring-fenced 18 kilometers in Duqm area, specifically for drone, self-driving vehicles, and robotics tests. Needless to say, there are other free zones in the country that can be used for this purpose. But we welcome technology companies to come to the country to test the different technologies in the different environments that are here in Oman. And the ministry is working very closely with Ministry of Commerce to provide investments incentives to companies to come to the country and to establish an operational base here in the country. And we are more than happy to discuss this on one-on-one basis.
Well, thank you for your insight and for respecting the timing, I guess. Now let's move to another sector that is also part of the future vision. Two sectors actually that have been shaken by and transformed by the digitalization and also the challenges, the big challenges of our world. One is the economy, and the second one will be the cybersecurity. So I would like to welcome Dr. Craig Wright, who is the inventor of Bitcoin and the author of the Bitcoin white paper. I'm sure you all are expecting some insight on that. He established nChain in 2015, where he's the chief scientist and where his ideas have led to thousands of patents application. Dr. Wright has more than 30 years of experience in the fields of information technology, IT security. So there we will tackle the cybersecurity aspect, having conducted more than 1,200 engagement for hundreds of private and governmental organizations. And Dr. Wright also worked on system protecting the Australian Stock Exchange. Indeed, a big challenge, that one as well, and helped design the architecture of the world's first online casino. Dr. Wright is currently a candidate for 2 additional PhDs. So we wish you luck on that, in law and applied mathematics, and in the major industry certification and several advanced academic degrees he already holds. So with all that insight, Dr. Wright, what are the key benefits of the Bitcoin and related system for national security and the protection of files and companies?
Is this on? Oh, it is. Okay, so the first thing to understand is Bitcoin's not an anarchist system. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation around it, but the key aspect of the invention is the ability to take digital goods, starting with transfer of value, and make them scarce. So if we think about this, what we can do isn't like NFTs. It isn't the idea that everyone can have a Bored Ape. It is taking digital files and linking technologies such as broadcast encryption and revocable encryption and creating a single digital file, a file that can exist provably once and only once, so that if I transfer that, then any copy of that file also deletes the previous, provably. So if we think from a national security point of view, it comes to a future sort of ability to have documents, even at a top secret level, that would be provably unable to be copied. So if we have our American friends, for instance, losing documents to Russians because of some of their employees, that would be impossible. You could actually have something where those documents would need to be signed off to be transferred by multiple high-level staff. Each, for instance, you could have 10 keys assigned to different general level officers, and all of them would need to sign that to have a certain document moved. Now, that could also be such that provable destruction or provable deletion of keys could occur. So from a national security point of view, we could have a control system or audits and documents, both for government, military, and business, that takes digital documents, something that can be copied unboundedly today, and brings back the ability to have something that is provably a single copy.
Oh, okay, and it's very interesting. And you use what we call also the blockchain technology to achieve the one-time aspect of the file system?
That's correct. So the underlying blockchain technology allows a provable measurement and metric on what exists where. So when you have a distributed system, and part of why you need to scale things like Bitcoin, is then that you don't have multiple copies controlling this. So the concept in Bitcoin isn't a 7 transaction a second like people tell you. What we're working on is to have over 1 million transactions a second next year. And we're aiming by the end of this decade to have at least 1 billion, if not 10 billion transactions a second. Now, at that rate, we seek to have a transaction cost of under 1,000th of a cent, US cent, which basically means nothing competes. It'll be cheaper than Swift, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. So my answer isn't all this anarchist stuff. It is that we're going to make it about 1 million times cheaper than everything on Earth, not the 10 times. I'm talking 10,000 to 1 million times cheaper. So that's my value proposition.
Nice. And of course, I mean, anarchy means the need for security. So how does the Bitcoin and Bitcoin technology, I mean, that you were explaining, will change the nature of cyber security?
So what I was talking about before, I used to be an auditor years ago, and I'm old enough to remember paper. So when we had old audit records, etc., they would be written down, and your double entry accounting records couldn't be changed. The reason they can't be changed is going back on a piece of paper and scribbling everything out and trying to add it up isn't feasible. But that doesn't mean that you can't actually have corrections. So one area that people get wrong on a blockchain is you need to roll things back, but there's no encryption in Bitcoin for a reason. Now that allows you to have the equivalent of an audit system, an accounting system, that still allows you to freeze and seize assets. The distinction here is any time that happens is public. So you can't abuse the system because anything that occurs, people will know and people can comment on. So if there's an oppressive government out there taking money from its citizens, every other government will see that, every other person will see that. So then you have to compete on a national basis that way. But by doing this, it also means that criminal funds will be able to be seized. We've already released tools for that. So if there are terrorist funding, if people smugglers, we can still stop their money. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. You'll still need court orders. You'll still need to approach this in a way that requires law. But what we're now doing is taking the wild, wild west of the internet, and we're bringing, and how that got fixed. And now we're going to get rid of the wild, wild west of blockchain and start bringing things back so that governments, corporations, banks can basically start trusting the system. So that people who own goods know that they'll be there. If someone steals your car, you want to get it back. If someone steals your keys in Bitcoin, you don't want to just give your money up. So the system's going to require, for security, the ability for people to control it, for governments and others to be able to manage this. Not just by having something easy, but proper court orders, proper process, due diligence.
Well, thank you. Speaking about Wild Wild West, that's a good transition to move to our next speaker, Gilles Babinet. We'll tackle more the regulation aspect and the disruptive innovation. So moving from Bitcoin Wild Wild West to Gilles Babinet is quite a good transition there. Gilles Babinet is a co-president of the National Digital Council, digital champion. He's representing France at the European Commission for Digital Matters. He's also a full-time multi-entrepreneur. Since 1989, he created 8 companies in various areas, such as mobile music, co-creation, big data marketing. He's also co-president of the National Digital Council, as well as a digital champion. He's also well-known digital visionary in France. He has been collaborating with the think tank Institut Montaigne on several research works on digital competitiveness, digital inclusion, big data, IoT. In 2011, he was appointed chairman of the National Digital Council by the former president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy. Since 2012, Gilles has been appointed as the French digital champion, representing the French digital civil society at the European Commission for Digital Topics. He's also a teacher at Sciences Po, HEC, and ENA, and he returned to the National Digital Council as co-chair in September 2020. Finally, he's a member of several boards, including Bearing Point and EDF Foundation. So, Mr. Babinet, looking at the US versus EU, which is quite a common and a good comparative thing for tackling the world issues, what should come first, regulation or innovation? I guess it's not an obvious answer.
Thank you. Is that working? Yes. Thank you for the Global Forum for having me, and thank you for the Omanese Authority for organizing and co-organizing this event. I'm very pleased to be here, and it's really interesting to see how vibrant is the participant, the discussion I already had. Everybody seems to be really interested in entering this new era. So the good question in here is, where do we stand in terms of the deepness of this digital revolution? We can see that actually some countries have been lagging behind, and some other are at the front end of this revolution. The US, China, and Israel are in different ranking, quite efficient in that extent, but we can see that it's moving very fast and that other players are accelerating. For instance, last year, the Europe in itself had more A funding, A startup, Series A funding than in the US, which was something very unexpected. Probably 3 years ago, we wouldn't have expected such thing in general. So I would say that if you look at the dynamics that are probably propelling this revolution, there are obviously a few things that we can all see. Actually, the entrepreneurial dynamic, which is probably very important, and if not the most important, and to a certain extent, the human capital that are driving these entrepreneurs. You know, for instance, in the US as well as in the UK, half of the unicorns came from the labs in university, while in Europe it's only 10%. So it's a very interesting indicator of the importance of the human capital. And I believe that for some scene, for a certain period of time, the fact that it was unregulated helped. In the US, you could develop a business on addressing 300 million people quite easily without so much regulation, and it was part of the success of this scene. So one may say, great, but we had many problems due to the fact that it was actually unregulated, starting with the social networks that are, you know, providing quite of disinformation content to the masses. And we saw as a reaction Europe doing a lot of regulation, and some started to say, okay, it's good to see Europe doing the regulation, but the problem is we may kill the entrepreneurship spirit, if not the startup in itself. And you know what I believe and what we are actually seeing, and I think that Dr. Wright is probably quite concerned or quite interested in that. It's the key point is to make sure that the regulation is supporting the entrepreneurship. And I think it's something that we start to see. If you want to make sure that, for instance, your smart contract is recognized by the authorities and that you can finally use the blockchain to make sure that it's part of the common life, you need to have a communication in between those two. You know, so this is probably the new era in which we're entering. We need to understand how things works in these technologies at different level, and not only at the entrepreneurship level. So it's probably a breakthrough in the sense that you need to understand the technology, and you need to have more politicians, more public servants that better understand how it works to develop your scene, your local scene. It works everywhere. And you also need to understand the key characteristic of the development of these different technologies, meaning that it's not only the fact that you can couple the regulation with the entrepreneurship spirit, it's also the fact that you understand what are the systems in it. And probably this is another really interesting aspect. It's there is a clear cliff in between the industrial era and the digital one. It's not V-cycle, it's agile, meaning that it's a lot of different groups that are working semi-independently from each other, that are able to create some sustainable and breakthrough innovation in general. So there are different systems that are different, and I believe overall it's all of a matter of culture. It's different, it's completely different, and it took us a lot of time to understand that what worked in the past as governance, as innovation processes, are not the same now. And I think it's why some are wondering whether it's a real breakthrough or not. Because you need first to understand the systems that are underlying, propelling these new technologies before expecting to grow it at a society stage. And I believe we are not far from that. A lot of governments in the world are now trying to understand this. A lot of startup or